All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of My Counseling Corner. My name is Luke. I'm your counselor, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about some things that happened in my last video. So I don't know what's going on with the technology, but somehow the video got split up into 3 separate videos. So all those videos are posted on the channel. You can go and look for them. They're just, REBT, I think parts 1, 2, and 3 is what they're titled. So go check those out. Hopefully that doesn't happen this time. Hopefully technology cooperates and we can get through a session without, having issues. But so there you go. Parts 1, 2, and 3 for the last video up on the channel. Go check them out. Like I said, last time we were talking about REBT, or Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy. And I used the example last time of how I use it in my practice and how I make it relatable to working with students. One thing I did not do that I said I was going to do was figure out a way to make it relatable for general use, just to use in your everyday lives. That's something that I didn't think I did a very good job at. It's something that I'm going to try to do a better job at in this video. So hopefully that works. Hopefully you guys will find this video helpful, and we'll go ahead and get into it. So today's topic is going to be transactional analysis, or TA for short. And like I said last video, or last series of videos, last 3 videos, transactional analysis and REBT, they actually synergize together very well. Also, I'm digressing here. If you haven't noticed, I am trying a new technique today. Somebody pointed out to me that the videos actually work better if you turn your phone sideways, because you can actually see the whole video rather than seeing like a little sliver. So that's another thing that we're trying today. So we're learning. We're getting through. We're learning together. We're having fun together. It's good stuff. All right. So, but anyway, I'm getting off track. Transactional analysis. Transactional analysis is a theory that I typically use when teaching communication, especially for young kids, because that's something that all kids struggle with, is communicating not just with their peers or with their family members, their parents, but also communicating with themselves and kind of that internal dialogue that we have, okay, that self-talk that we find ourselves in. So this is a theory that I use to really emphasize communication. Another thing it does very well is it helps to give me and the person I'm working with, whether it's a student or a client, some common language to go off of. So it helps us to identify when we're acting certain ways or talking in certain ways, or if we're communicating in a particular style. It just helps to kind of clarify things, give some common language, and helps people think about things a little bit differently. So let's pull out my little handy dandy board here. So for those of you that don't know or haven't figured it out yet, I use some kind of visualization tool or some sort of little prop or something, just about every session that I do. I'm always either writing on my board, or I'm pulling out some props, or doing something that's, gets people up and moving around. Because coming from an educational background, I know how important it is to try to stimulate as many of the senses as possible when you're doing counseling, or when you're doing anything to try to teach people something. You want to make it auditory so that they can hear. You want to make it visual. You want to make it kinesthetic, involve movement. You want to include as many senses as possible. So I'm always writing on my board or doing something like that. And we're actually going to try to adjust here a little bit. Yes, that should work. Okay. So this is transactional analysis in a nutshell, or at least the way that I use it when I'm working with students. So the basis of transactional analysis is this. We all view the world through 3 different ego states. Okay, now I don't really use the term ego states when I'm working with a kid, or even with a client. I'll usually say something like, we see the world through 3 different lenses, or there's 3 lenses that we tend to view the world through. Okay, because that makes a lot more sense to most people. So we all have these 3 lenses. And so we all use them when we're communicating with each other, or when we're just experiencing the day-to-day world. Those 3 lenses are as follows. You have a parent lens, you have an adult lens, and you have a child lens. And we'll go over what each one of those means. Now, this isn't to say that you are a parent or that you have to be a parent to be using the parent lens. Same thing with the adult and the child. I'm not calling anyone an adult. I'm not calling anyone a child. These are just the terms that we use to describe what the lenses are. Okay? So let's start with the parent lens. The parent lens is actually split into two sides because we have two different types of parenting or parenting styles or parenting approaches. We have what we may call a nurturing parent, which, to give you an example, a parent, a mother or a father who is comforting, trying to comfort that child that's upset, trying to nurture, trying to support, being supportive. I always picture, the mom or the dad holding the newborn baby, all swaddled up, and the baby's crying, and you're comforting, you're rocking, you're singing to them. Okay, if you want to visualize it in a way, that's how I usually visualize it. That's our nurturing parent. Okay. On the other side of that, we have what we call the critical parent. So, if a nurturing parent is the mother or father holding the newborn baby, trying to comfort them, the critical parent will be that same mother and father when that baby has grown up and become a teenager. Okay, and they are being very critical of their child. Telling them, maybe you picture the finger wag. You need to go to school. You need to clean your room. You need to bring your grades up. You need to, do your chores. Just kind of that critical, being very criticizing and accusatory, so to speak. Okay, so that's the critical parent. So that's the two sides of our parent lens. Sorry. Now the child lens, in a similar way, is split into two sides. We have what we call the fun or free child, which would be, again, using visualization, the child that's running through the field, carefree, happy as can be, playing, unstructured, just having fun, doing what kids are supposed to do. Okay, that's the fun, free child. On the other side of that, we have the hurt child. And the hurt child is exactly that, a child whose feelings have been hurt. Okay? I always tell people this one, and as soon as I say this, they immediately get it. It's the child you see in Walmart throwing the temper tantrum because they didn't get the toy that they wanted. That's the hurt child. And most people, as soon as it's like the flip switch is like they get it. As soon as I describe that image, they're like, oh yeah, that's I know exactly what that's like. So that's our two sides of our child lens. Now the adult lens is a little bit different. The adult lens isn't split into halves or pieces. The adult lens is really where we do most of our best thinking. Okay, our decision-making skills, our being rational, just thinking, communicating well, staying calm, not putting too much emotion into it. That's the adult lens, okay? And it's always funny when I describe this, especially when I'm working with kids. This is something I'll usually say. I'll say a lot of adults aren't very good at using their adult lens. I know plenty of people, just friends and people in my family, who need a lot of practice staying in their adult lens and keeping that adult state of mind. So those are our three lenses, okay, for transactional analysis, or TA. And the way I use this most of the time is I'll have someone give me an example of an argument that they've gotten into recently. Okay, so I might say, give me an example of something that you've been in an argument about, and I'll usually put the client's name on one side, and then I'll put, the friend or the family member's name on the other side. And a normal response I'll get, or a normal situation I usually get, is a child is upset because their parents got mad at them, or they did something to get in trouble. Like, let's say they didn't do their chores. Okay? And I'll usually say, okay, tell me how the conversation started. When you got into this argument, or when you got into trouble, who started it, or how did it start? And they'll say, well, it all started when, mom or dad, they told me that I had to clean my room. I say, okay, so mom, dad came to you and said, you need to clean your room. What lens is that? Okay, so like we just said, the the finger wag, the being critical, telling them they have to clean their room. You need to clean your room. So then maybe the friend or the family member may have even started the conversation in the parent lens. So even starting out, we're not in our adult, okay? We're in our parent lens. So when we're in our parent lens, the thing to remember is the parent always talks to the child, okay? And that's a very important piece. The parent always talks to the child. And likewise, the child always hears from the parent, okay? And that's a very important thing, and here's why. When we're in our parent lens, the parent lens is all about having a sense of control or keeping some kind of power. And as people, as individuals, we're always searching to have some sense of control over our situations, right? We're always looking to grasp that straw or to find that thing we can latch onto that's going to give us some sense of control. Okay, so as far as TA is concerned, that's this parent lens. If we're in our parent lens, we feel in control, we feel like we have power, and we feel safer. Okay, we feel more safe and more comfortable here. So if given the option, most of the time people want to jump into that parent lens. So the conversation starts saying, you need to clean your room. And remember, parent always talks to the child, right? Now, the thing about the child lens is, as a child, even thinking of it in terms of, for like a legal sense, you have no control as a child. Children have very little say over their lives, over the things that they have to do. The decisions that are made for them are often made by the parents. So in that child lens, when we're using that lens, we don't feel very safe, right? We don't feel in control. We don't feel powerful. So if we're receiving a message from a parent from our child lens, instead of staying down here where we feel unsafe, where we don't feel in control, we all want to jump up to this parent lens because we want to feel safe. We want to be in control. So that's the sequence, and that's what happens here. So when a parent says, okay, you need to clean your room, the child says, well, that doesn't feel good. I don't like that. I don't feel like I have any control right now. So I'm going to jump into my parent lens. And then the child may say, this kid may say back, well, I don't want to clean my room. Okay, they jump into that hurt child. I don't want to clean my room. I want to go outside and play. Okay, so they're in that child lens. And then they may say something like, well, you can't tell me to clean my room. You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me to clean my room. Again, being critical. So now they've jumped up into their parent lens because they want to feel some sense of control. And then they talk down to the other person's child lens. And again, we know what happens. We don't feel safe here. So we jump back up to the parent lens. Say, well, I don't have to do what you say. I'm the adult. I'm telling you to clean your room. Talking down. I told you I'm not going to clean my room. You can't tell me what to do. Talking down the child. And we just go and we get into this crazy, dance where we just go back and forth and back and forth. And the conversation may change. I mean, at some point they may get off the thing about cleaning your room. And when we get into this back and forth, this infinity, infinite figure eight symbol, this is where hurtful things are said. This is where feelings get hurt. This is where arguments tend to escalate into something more than just arguments. Okay? Because this goes on and on and on, and you can see the longer we go, the bigger it gets, and the more space it takes up, and the more overt and crazy it becomes. So at this point, I'll usually stop the conversation, and I'll ask my client. I'll say, now hold on a second. We're getting into this big figure eight infinity cycle here. What have we not done? What have we not used so far in this picture? And the answer is here. No one has tried to use their adult lens. No one is seeing the conversation through the adult lens. So I'll challenge the client to do this. If someone said to you, you need to clean your room, what would be an adult reaction? What is an adult response? Now remember, the adult lens is very calm, it's rational, and this is where we do our best decision making, right? Our best communicating. So what is an adult response when they hear someone say, you need to clean your room, do whatever? And then a common answer that I always hear is someone may say, okay, I'll go clean my room. That is an adult response. And even if you don't want to clean the room, you can still have a conversation. Okay, you can question sometimes, but you don't always have to question from the child lens. Okay, if you want to question something, like if someone says to clean your room, it's perfectly okay to say, all right, I know you're asking me to clean my room. I feel like I've already cleaned my room. I feel like I just cleaned my room. Help me understand. Please help explain to me why cleaning my room right now is so important to you. If you can give me a reason, I'll be much more likely to do it. That is an adult response. Okay, so the goal is to get people communicating as adults. Okay, get on this adult level. Now, if I'm working with a family, and if I'm working with the kid, I'm also working with the parent. Now, if the parent is the one in their parent lens, and if they're being critical, and if they're saying something like, you need to clean your room, I would probably work with that parent too and say, you know what, I understand that that's what you want your kid to do, and you are the adult, and you should have the final say. Your kids should be listening to what you're telling them. So if you want them to listen, let's try to think of a way that we can give them instruction that doesn't sound so critical. Let's try to think of a way that we can give them instruction that they're actually going to listen to, and they're not immediately going to want to jump up here so they can have some sense of control. Okay, so instead of, you need to clean your room, maybe we can start with, hey, we know what I'd really like for you to do right now is to go upstairs and try to tidy up your room a little bit. Okay, because I was just up there, and just within the past couple days, it kind of looks like a mess. Again, I really want you to clean it up, because if you can get it clean, then we may have some more time later today to do some fun things, to do some fun stuff. Okay, if you get your room clean, later in the day, I may let you go over to your friend's house. Or if you get your room clean, later today, you can go ride your bike. Okay, so finding ways to, communicate that initial request that doesn't sound like it's coming from a parent lens, but rather from an adult lens. Okay, so that's an example, a very brief overview of TA, transactional analysis. I'm actually going to move this back over here, so I'm going on a little ride. There we go. All right, so now, if I'm working with an everyday person, if I'm trying to make this relatable to someone's everyday life, if they're really struggling, which a lot of people do, because this does seem like a very kind of bizarre, kind of out there theory, it's very difficult it is to kind of grasp this notion of having the three lenses. You'd be very surprised at how many people struggle with this. I'll usually give an example that's kind of more personal to me, and I might give an example of sometimes me and my wife get into arguments. When we argue, it may be something so simple like, you need to do the dishes, or why have you not done the dishes yet? Now, when I hear that, if she says that to me, I hear, uh-oh, I didn't do the dishes. She sounds like she's irritated. Is she irritated at me? Why would she be irritated at me? Did I do something wrong? If I did something wrong, what does that mean? Does it mean I'm a bad husband? Does it mean I'm a bad partner? Was I irresponsible for not doing the dishes? So that, you can see how that ties in with RABT, like we were doing in the last set of videos, of how my thoughts are causing me to feel. Okay, so I get all these feelings of, frustration and, disappointment in myself, which causes me then to jump out of my adult lens, which I should be using, and I go up into my parent, or I drop down to my child lens. I either feel very hurt, or I jump up into the parent lens to try to get some sense of control, and then I start being critical back to her. And then we, of course, get into this big argument. And everyone who's married or who's been in an intimate relationship with your partner, you know what that's like. You get into arguments over little things, but that's what it is. We're not staying in that adult lens. So what I try to teach people is how to strengthen that adult lens, how to give it some shields, how to give it some extra armor. Okay, so that when we get tempted, or if people say things to us that are, coming from that critical parent side or coming from that hurt child side, or if they're trying to, hurt our feelings, we have that thick adult armor, we have that strong adult lens that we can stay in and that we can communicate from to advance the situation. Okay? And one of the bad things about this, and this is what I have to tell clients and kids all the time, is just because we're going to try to stay in our adult lens doesn't mean that we can guarantee that the person we're talking with remain in their adult lens. It's very, very difficult to stay in your adult when the person you're talking to is being either hypercritical or hyper hurt, okay, hurt feelings. It's very difficult to stay in that adult lens. But again, I'm a firm believer in teaching control and using your energy for things that you should be using your energy for. Controlling what you can control. The only thing we can guarantee that we have control over is ourselves. So I really try to put that emphasis on the client of maintaining a sense of control and really focusing their energy on where it'll be the most effective, which is controlling yourself and controlling what you think and what you feel and what you do. Because if we're trying to control these other variables, if other people or control the environment, you're always going to be let down because you can't control those things. You can influence them, sure. I can do things to influence the people around me, but I can't control what they do. So if I'm looking to improve a situation, I'm going to focus on what I can control, which is myself. Okay, my actions and my behavior, my thoughts, therefore my feelings. So this was like a longer video. Right now it's looking about 21 minutes, which is pretty long. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope I did a better job this video of trying to make this more relatable to an everyday life. This is a very complex theory, transactional analysis. There are a lot of layers. The ego states or the lenses, that is just one small piece of the puzzle that is transactional analysis. It's much more complicated, I think, than RABT is. But again, this is a common practice that I use, a common theory that I use in my practice. And usually I use it for communication purposes, but it can be used in a wide variety of situations. You can use this, interactions with your coworkers or interactions with your boss at work. You can use this for interactions with family members when we go on those big holiday vacations. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and I'm actually getting a lot of phone calls right now, so I'm going to end this video. I'm going to take some of these phone calls, but I'm going to post this video hopefully this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was helpful. Next week, we're probably going to delve into choice theory and the WDEP model. And this is another one I use a lot, especially with kids. This is a great goal-setting model, if goal setting is something that you're interested in. So I'll see you in that next video, and have a good day, and I'll talk to you then. Thanks.